Hey, you guys. I am basically at this point where I have a bunch of covers that are done for, single signature junk journals. And I guess I'm kind of on this kick of doing this, mainly because I've sold a lot of them lately. And I feel like, people are liking them. And so I might as well, go with that. Also, a lot of the stuff that I've gotten recently off of eBay and stuff like that, were a lot of these little kind of like pamphlet style books, and I just feel like they lend themselves really well to a journal, And I've also got a ton of file folders, so I want to try to use those, and do different sizes and stuff like that. So, and I did have someone request that I show like how I basically put these together. Mostly, I think she was asking about the file folders, how I do that, and I can do that. Like, I'll do just like a separate little video at some point, of how I do the little file folders. So from kind of like start to finish, she was asking. Anyway, so at this point, where I'm at is that I need to assemble signatures for those journals. And what I've been doing over the last couple days is just going through book pages and a lot of the contents from these, that I took apart. So using a lot of the pages out of these little booklets, and so I want to try to pull some of that content back into the journals themselves and use up a bunch of other stuff, So I've literally gone through like, probably 5 giant like tubs, of just stuff, to gather stuff that I want to use. So basically, like at this point, what I'll do is, and this looks like a lot of stuff, and it kind of is. So basically what I do at this point is I kind of have it separated into like piles of different sizes, So what I'll do is I'll just kind of go through each item and determine whether this is going to be used as a page, just, added to a signature as a page in the journal. And that is decided on a couple of things, right? So I try to figure out like, okay, this has some good journaling space on it, right? There's some blank paper there. The writing that's on this paper is pretty light. Like, it's not super dark. So like if somebody were to take a marker and write over that, they could still see what they wrote. And I don't think that that's bothersome. You know what I mean? And so, excuse me. So I feel like this would be good as a page in a book. And it's also pretty sturdy. Like, when I folded it, it didn't crack or anything like that. It's a good quality paper. I like the texture of it. So those are just some of the things that I think about when I'm determining whether or not I can use this particular piece as a page. So things like this, where, this is a book page. Also, it's a lot older. I think it would be great as a page, although it's somewhat brittle. So like, see, it's actually torn there a little bit. So I'm not 100% sure I want to use this as a page. If I do decide that I want to use this as a page in a journal, I'll put a piece of washi tape down the center here, and then just try to be careful with it. You know what I mean? And I'll continue analyzing that as I put signatures together, whether this is going to hold up or not. If it doesn't, then it'll just get added to the pile of like insertable stuff, like into pockets and things like that. So I just kind of wanted to talk to you about that a little bit, and let you know that those are the things that I'm looking at when I'm figuring out what I'm going to use as pages I try to use up scraps of things. Like if I was making envelopes out of book paper or things like that, like I try not to waste anything that could be used in a journal. This is a page from a like a French dictionary. So, and we all love those. So this would be great as a page in like a small journal, you know, very usable. So it's kind of going in that pile. Sometimes I like to use torn pages. I don't mind, you know, if it's been torn at the bottom. That doesn't bother me. And, you know, so I'm just kind of, this is a little bit weak right there. So this might get a piece of washi tape, or it might not make the cut. I don't know. So at this point, I'm really just folding this stuff and trying to figure out if it's going to work as a page. I like to also try to use things of different weights. You know, I like to have a variation in texture and color and weight of paper in my journals, just because I think that it adds interest. So I also don't always fold everything perfectly in half. Like sometimes I'll fold things a little bit off center, you know. So like for this, I could fold this just a little bit off center. And then, you know, I've got a little teeny page over here and then a larger page that'll be on the other side of the signature. So I'm kind of doing stuff like that. This is just, you know, from a little pamphlet. So these obviously go in that pile as that size. I like to keep my text going the correct direction if I can. That's not always possible, but I do try to do that. So this little guy is just like a, you know, flyer. This is an old like vintage kind of advertising or pricing sheet or whatever. So it's a pretty heavy paper, like it's pretty sturdy. I really like it. I want to be able to use it this way. I try to, you know, use things in a creative way, you know, like I feel like this little part right here would look kind of cool if it was on the front of a pocket, you know. So I'm going to fold this up. Whoops, and I tore it right in half, so I guess it's not making the cut. But you see what I'm saying? I'm just kind of analyzing stuff like that. That probably would not have torn if I was doing it on the table. Anyway, so we'll count that out. But anyways, so this is a little bit heavier paper, but look at it would fit perfect in this journal, you know. So then I've got another pile that, you know, that's just kind of how I go through this stuff. I've got like 5 different sizes here. So I keep them over here so I can kind of compare as I'm making my piles. And I'll put some of these smaller ones later on into the larger journals too. You know, like I don't always make everything fit just perfect. Like I think it's nice to have a smaller page in a large journal, you know. But I'm trying to sort these out by size and then also figure out what I'm going to use as pockets, what I'm going to make into pockets, and things like that. So this is, obviously, it's very brittle, you know. So this is not really going to be useful as far as a page in a book. So it's just going in a different pile. I can still use it for other things. This stuff is pretty sturdy. So anyway, so that's just basically what I'm doing. And so I'll go through all of this ephemeral type of stuff, right? Book pages, advertising, flyers, pamphlets, and then I'll kind of get into other stuff, like things like patterns, like old patterns. And this stuff can be used as pages in books too, you know. Depending on the condition of this, we can use it folded in half this way. We can make it into a pocket on either side of the book, you know, or it could even be cut like all the way open so that each, you know, each half of this is a page, you know. I could washi tape 2 of them together and use them in a large journal vertically, you know, like I could just washi tape this down the center and, you know, use those just like they are. And then each of these could be a pocket, you know, or from the top. I have a bunch of patterns that I need to start using. And also just scraps of patterns, you know. I just don't throw anything away if it has any kind of, you know, if I can envision any kind of use for it, you know. I also have like a pile of old letters that I want to try to use, and envelopes. These came from some ephemera that I bought recently. Let me put this stuff back in its rubber band. Everything in my house stays rubber banded together. So I've got all of these letters and envelopes that I want to try to use in some books. And these letters right here, I kind of left the letter with the envelope because I read one of them, and the guy that wrote these letters is absolutely hysterical. He's so funny, and like he was writing to this family, and there's like 6 letters from him, and they're all just super, super funny. So anyways, I want to try to use some of these letters, and again, I'm going to be determining, you know, the quality of the paper, if it's going to stand up to, you know, pages being turned and, you know, multiple times and stuff like that. So this one seems like it's relatively sturdy. So I am going to be a little bit vicious about it. And I'm really just looking for textures and pattern and composition, that kind of thing. That's really what I'm looking for. I love that this, you know, the signature there has kind of bled out a little bit. So I may just use this folded like that in a book, okay, like in the center of the signature, and then I'll have this as a fold out, you know. So I'm not gonna like make that determination right now, but I'm gonna just put this in my pile of pages that I'm going to use. So the same thing with this one, you know, I kind of like this one just folded in half like that, and it would fit in this book, you know. So I'm going to leave this one whole. I'm going to not tear that one up. This one, I don't necessarily like the handwriting, so it's going to go in my later pile. This one obviously is not extremely sturdy, but I love this paper. Like, this is onion skin paper, and you know, I just love the texture of it. So it's gonna get used somehow. I love just like these little notes and that old tape, and oh my god, this is yummy. So this, since it was actually folded up like this, I might just use this in a pocket, you know, of a book. So that's another thing that I'm definitely trying to use up, some of these old letters. And I separated all of the envelopes from those. So, you know, I'm going to definitely use some of these envelopes. Sometimes you find envelopes that you want to reproduce, you know, and like this one I really like. I just like the shape of it, and I like the curves and things like that of the, you know, the paper. So this one I'll definitely use. It's like a money envelope, right? So I'm actually going to put this aside and use it as like a template. But like this one, oh my god, it's awesome, from 1937. So, I mean, this is just beautiful the way it is. So this is probably just going to get folded in half and used in one of those small journals as a pocket. So yeah, so I've got this whole pile of, you know, envelopes that I want to use. Here's an old coin envelope. Yeah, one of these people was a Marine. There's a bunch of stuff from like the military and stuff in here. This is really cool. June 1969. Look at this one. It has some really, really cool old script. Interesting size to this paper. It's kind of, oh, whoops. Oh, I see. Oh, I get it. It's 2 pieces, duh. And they've just written front and back, but used it horizontally. Isn't that cool? I love that. So anyway, that's going to get used. This letter, I read this, and it's really, really, really cool. I want to try to flatten it out and like decoupage it onto another piece of paper. It's really a neat story. It's like this guy is like asking his nephew, who lives in Alberta, Canada, to come to the United States and help him with a farm. And it's just really, really cool. It made me cry. This is just an old, like, oh my gosh, just some of this ephemera is so cool. I want to read this to you guys. This is really neat. I found this in an envelope. You will marry young and will live in the country where you will experience the regular routine of life of the farm. You will live in peace and plenty. Many friends will come and go, and many happy and contented faces will gather around your beautiful bond. Isn't that cool? Love it. Anyway, I've really had fun going through all of this old ephemera and like reading these letters and stuff. And this Charlotte lady, man, this guy was really into her. But these are from March of 1863. These old letters. So some of these I want to actually scan and try to, you know, maybe even use again. So, anywho, so that's that. And then the envelopes, you know, some of them are just neat, like the postage, and you know, some of them are like from stationery sets and things like that. So those I'm going to go through. And then also I've got like some other stuff that I want to try to use up. A couple of paper bags that I had from around Christmas time. I just cut these up into different flat pages, you know, pieces. So these are all going to get kind of folded up in different ways and used in some of these books. These are like my offcuts from some 12 by 12 coffee dyed paper. So these are, you know, usable for smaller journals, along with this whole pile of offcuts. So look at all that coffee dyed paper. So this stuff is all going to get used at some point. I have this set of coffee dyed flow paper that I've kind of been hanging on to for some reason, and I decided I'm not hanging on to it anymore. So I'm going to cut these up and use this as pages. I also have some onion skin paper that I want to try to use. Some of it's really cool. I don't know if you guys are familiar with onion skin paper, but look at this one's kind of blue. Or no, that's like a separator sheet. Anyway, so this is some really old onion skin paper, but it's in really good shape. I think it must have been used at maybe like a law firm or something. I don't know, because it's numbered. So I thought this was pretty cool. I got this on eBay. Wasn't extremely cheap, but there's almost, you know, there's probably like 500 sheets in here. So it's a lot of yummy paper. If you go looking for onion skin paper, you'll see that it sells for like $12 for like 25 sheets. And I didn't pay anything close to that, just so you know. The other thing I like to use is flyleaf pages from books. Just because they're great. Like they're basically like aged coffee dyed paper, you know. So I save all my flyleaf paper, and then, you know, I run across just random, you know, blank paper and books and tucked in things and stuff like that. So I always just hang on to those, put them in a big pile. Yeah, so this is all flyleaf paper that I'm saving. Oh, this is from a notebook. Yeah, this is some notebook paper that was in one of those, you know, books or whatever. So this is going to go with the paper for signatures. And this was like a order book, like a wish list book. So I thought this paper was pretty cool. So all this is going to get put into journals. This will probably get cut down into different sizes. This was a neat like flyer. Look at all that blank paper. So this I'm going to cut up and use for tags. And I found an old pad of tracing paper. So I coffee dyed some of it, but some of it I'm going to use just like this. And then I've got some other onion skin paper that is not lined. This is some stuff that I have had for a long time. And this actually coffee dyes really well. It just is very fragile when it's wet. So if you do coffee dye onion skin paper, be really, you know, careful with it. Or tea dye. So yeah, here's some of the tracing paper that is coffee dyed. And sometimes they stick together. You know what? I don't care. You know, it's fine. Doesn't matter. So I just kind of want to show you guys what goes into my journals, you know. This is sort of what, you know, this is all the fun, you know. Here's some ledger paper that I've coffee dyed. I just don't really like stark white. So, but a bunch of coffee dyed white paper that's going to get cut into different sizes. Oh, here's some weird cardstock that I had cut out all of these little mini file folders out of this cardstock. And I wanted to just see what they would do if I coffee dyed them. So when I laid them on here, look at it, made these cool little like prints. I don't know. I thought those turned out neat. So anyway, that stuff. And then and then there's the box of stuff that's already been used for journals. This is like leftovers from other larger journals. So I'm going to go through here and pull out stuff that I have not used. And, you know, just kind of make a stack of that. There's some music paper in here. Definitely want to use that up. Some guest checks, coffee dyed guest checks. Some note papers. So, you know, I basically start out large and intact, like whole, and I use as much of that in full pages as I can. And then they slowly kind of trickle down into these smaller and smaller like collections of paper, and then they get put into smaller and smaller journals. Once I get to a certain size, you know, it's kind of hard to make them into a book anymore. So then they just basically get folded up and, you know, stuck in pages and things like that. So that's kind of my process. Like, you know, I wind up with these little pieces. So I save all of those and I use them, you know, and I'll like round the corners and stuff on these and put them in pockets. Or sometimes I'll use those little scraps and punch out shapes and things like that. So I'm just trying to be like really frugal with my paper, you know. I'm trying to use as much of it as I can in the most efficient way. So anyway, I don't know if this is interesting or not, you guys, but this is just kind of where I'm at, and this is my process. So this is part of the reason that I make a lot of journals at one time, because I just, you know, I don't want to do this 10 times. I want to do this one time and produce 10 journals. You know what I mean? I think it's just efficiency on my part, and it just makes sense. And that way I feel a little bit more gratification too. Like I feel like I'm being more productive and using my time a little bit better. You know, it's like work smart, not hard, you know. And I mean, it's not really work anyways. So, but I'm not going to assemble a bunch of stuff right now. I'm going to save that and try to do that on my live stream on Sunday. So hopefully you guys can come and hang out and chat with me, and we can put together some signatures and maybe even get some of these assembled. Still working on my sewing machine. A little bit angry at my sewing machine at the moment. But maybe I'll try to get it figured out before Sunday, and then I could just run through, you know, how I actually do the file folder journals with the liner and stuff. So, okay. Well, listen, I will see you guys hopefully on Sunday. I'm going to start folding and organizing my piles and stuff like that. And then hopefully by Sunday, I'll be ready to do some, you know, assembling signatures and things like that, and maybe stitching some stuff together. So, all right. Well, you guys take care, and thanks for being here for me. I appreciate it. I really, really, really do. And for all your support and everything. And I will see you again soon. Okay. Oh, 4 o'clock on Sunday, 4 p.m. Pacific time, by the way. Hopefully you'll be there too. I will be. Okay. Bye.